What's up everybody, my name's Kevin Taubenberg. Welcome to my channel. I have a good video for today. Today is going to be the fourth and the last video of this series where I am creating a machinist straight edge. This time we're going to finish up the scraping on the bottom. We do a little bit of scraping on the side, and then we make an enclosure for it to keep it all nice and safe. And I think you're going to enjoy this one. If you do, thumbs up and leave a comment. I'm a small channel, usually can get back to everybody. If you want to, at the end, if you stick around, I'm going to talk about lessons learned during this project. Gotten some good feedback from viewers. May address some of that as well. All right, let's see how this goes. Beautiful day. All right, quick update. This is a 2000s feeler. Not getting any there, any there. There. This goes under just a little bit there. So it looks like I got a 2000s hole. It doesn't go very far, but just right at that edge, about 2000s there. And that's what's showing up also right there. So I'm not getting it in that far. So I think 2000s is right at the edge. So probably it's 1000s going all the way in. And I have a similar hole on that side. Well, when I started, it was early afternoon. It's now coming on 8 o'clock. Let me show you what I've got. I'm getting ever closer. The deficit that we had on this side is now picking up. So we're good pretty much everywhere here. Still got this little moon here. I think that's got to be a thousandth or less. I think maybe another day. And then once I get it where it's picking up everywhere, then we'll start working on making the areas of contact spread out more. Getting there. All right, everybody, I'm calling it. I've essentially got contact everywhere now. As I have gone with the power scraper, you know, some passes I'm doing heavier in one area than the other, so, you know, maybe that area looks a little bit lighter, but now it's time to go to the hand scraping to try to get better fine control. That power scraper is, you know, has a certain amount of area, and I can't focus exactly on just the pigment. So now we move to a new phase. Turns out this is hard work. I can't imagine trying to do this from the beginning. I mean, I think maybe experienced scrapers, I think they get these big things, and I've even heard that they get like a pad that goes up against their waist, and they really dig in and they take deep cuts so that they're not just doing little bit as I have been doing, because just doing it one pass is tiring. Need to work up my arms. Well, I'm confused. My understanding is that you needed to start breaking up the patches into smaller. So I've been trying to do like a grid kind of pattern, leaving space in between. And you may be able to see some of that. But now suddenly you can see it's picking up here, but it doesn't look like it's hardly picked up any all the way along here. I think I'm gonna have to like clean it off, put down like a dicum. I think you put like a yellow dicum down. I think that's what you do. And then you come back, and then that makes the blue stand out more. So I don't know what this is, because it does not seem to. And all I can see is the scratch marks where I've gone with the manual scraper. So I'm a little puzzled, but I do think it's somehow printing heavier down here, so I don't know whether I should take all of those off. I don't know. Well, I got this yellow dicum, and I tried smearing it on there, and then I kept having spots that looked weak, and I tried to put some more on there, and then I tried to rub it around with the cloth, and it would end up rubbing it off and look more empty than before, so I decided to just leave it in those spots thicker. So we'll see. I'm waiting for it to dry, and then we will try going back over there. I could maybe put some more ink down, some more fitting compound, and make it thicker on the surface plate, but guess I was worried that that was just clumping up and not being even, but I may have to go to that. But I did take my roller and try to roll it out, so make it all smooth. We'll see how this goes. This is not an exact science. Look at what a difference this is compared to my last print. And the only thing I can think is that either that Dicom somehow helped the ink that was there stick better, or the fact that I rolled it out took some extra pigment and put it into the area where it would pick up. But now, I mean, last time I thought there was an excess here, so I scraped all this area, and now that looks relatively low, and the same over here. So I guess I'm gonna have to scrape, maybe not too much, the rest. And you know, when I'm sliding it around on here, sometimes it'll slide smooth, and then sometimes it like sticks. And it seems like it'll stick over in the areas where, because where there's more pigment. Like it's this, I think I've used this area more, and so it's maybe picked up, and maybe there's still some more left here. And so this last time it was sticking more, like it would not slide as smoothly. And I think that's clear because it picked up a lot more pigment. But I am happy to see that it's picking up everywhere, other than just relative less there. But I think we probably can fix that. I think I'm gonna call it a day and think about this for a little bit. I'm almost wondering whether I should just try printing it again where it's not so heavily matted all in there together, because I think if I try to take all of that off, especially if I do that all by hand, I think that might be too much. I mean, just a little bit that I tried doing from this area has taken it down relative to the rest. So I got to think about that. All right, it's another day. I've had to think about this. I'm going to take all of the markings off with acetone. I'm going to go back and I'm going to try to do a light print. I think that sometimes when the ink is, or the pigment is heavy, it kind of builds up. I kind of think of it as like a snow shovel pushing an inch of snow off of a driveway, and as you go along it gets thicker and thicker. And so maybe the points of contact on the surface here as they're going through the pigment, if they're scraping, it seems like maybe they're going to build up more, because as I'm looking here, it's all thicker and around here than I think it truly is. I think the pigment was just too thick on there, and I'm not sure why, because I hadn't put any new one on. I just spread it out, but apparently it was thick around the edges. You know, back when I had big, huge differences, I wanted it nice and thick so I could take off a lot. So I think I just need to do a lighter print, so I'm going to start over with that. All right. I've got pretty good coverage. I've gone back and tried to make little tiny scratch marks to break up any bigger areas. You can see it's just a little bit lighter here than in the other places. And I think we're down to splitting hairs. I'm gonna do this a few more times, but I'm getting close to being happy with this. Nice. Well, after my last clip, I didn't do any additional scraping. I went over there and did a print, and it came back and it was like only printing in the middle, which didn't seem right to me. There's no reason why it should have been only in the middle. So I just did not put any additional fitting compound. I just did my roller and just, you know, spread it out. And it just take like this and just kind of went back and forth over the whole thing, made it all even. Then I printed and I get this. I don't know if you kind of have to get it in the glare. So there, it looks good. And then in that place where I said I thought it was light, that looks nice and dark. And everywhere seems to be covered. I may do one or two more cycles, but then I think I'm done. All right, I'm gonna call it. Of course, I can always come back later and do it more if I need. I feel like that's pretty good coverage. There's some areas that look lighter than others, and I think that has to do with how it prints, because I think that those are all touching just fine. I like it. Now, theoretically, there's also a surface here, and then there's a bevel underneath it. I don't know if I have the fortitude to think about doing those right now. We'll see. Okay, I worked on this side a little bit. I don't know if that will show under there, but there's light coming through. When I first started out, I put in a feeler and a feeler gauge, and I think it was like 13 thousandths at its highest. This is kind of a small area, and I would think that I should be able to get it down fairly quickly. I still can't get it to focus, but you can see the light coming in. The problem is a couple of things. Number one, as I'm putting it down, depending on how it is this way, is going to be whether it's on the front or the back. So it's going to be hard to get that thing flat that way. The second one is it just doesn't seem to be picking up the pigment very much. I think I'm gonna call it a day for today, but I think I may come back and just put on the pigment quite a bit heavier, because I'm just having a hard time seeing. Because like for right now, I think it's really only touching like in one spot right here. But then when I look, I can't see any pigment there. I mean, it did pick up a little bit here, but is that just from where I set it down? And so I think this is going to be more tricky to do, but it's not as important, so I'm not going to stress on that as much. All right, that's all for today. Good morning. Actually, it's about noon, so it's a day off. I'm lazy, slow getting going. Okay, so I previously showed that I was concerned, let me show down here, that for getting this edge, that number one, if I have a lot of area to cover, using my scraper is just too slow. I mean, it's fine for doing the detailed work, but it's just too slow and I got a lot to take. So that's when, on my other one, I would use this belt sander. But the concern is as I put the belt on, maybe I'm gonna be this way, maybe I'm gonna be that way, and I'm gonna end up with a rounded surface here. So I went and got this little finger sander, and I think with that I'm gonna be able to do kind of very delicate, because it's only like a 1/2 inch wide. So I'm gonna try that, but before I do it, actually I'll do it on the next pass. I've printed it and I can see just a little bit here and along this edge and here and here. And then, so I'm just gonna take that off since I have it. And then I'm gonna use the scraper to go over the whole edge, because when it's rough and has little scratches, it picks up the fitting compound or the pigment better. Another update is that before I was concerned about being consistent this way as I would put it on there. And so I got a square, and it's not super perfect, but I found that if I put this little piece of aluminum on there, actually it looks like the aluminum may be going a little bit too much. When I did this here, it was just about perfect, and I guess that is thicker. So maybe I will find a different spacer, but something to come up with a consistent flat surface. This goes by pretty fast. This thing takes off just the right amount. I'm making pretty good progress. That I would just show a little update. It's kind of hard with the glare. There's an area right here that's not picking up. Maybe a little bit right there, and a little bit right. Again, you have to get it just right there. It's not picking up, but I'm getting close. I'm not sure how far down that is, but it's been coming together closer, like this gap is narrowing. So I think I'm getting close there. And then it's not picking up on the end just now, but it has recently. And then here we are with the printing. All right, I think I'm gonna stop here. It is not as spread out, and it's not as diffuse, and it's not 100%, but I'm never really going to use this for doing super precise stuff. This is mostly just like if I'm setting it up against something, I want to know that it's flat. I never got complete filling in of here, but from end to end, it's got good contact, and I think that's good enough. Okay, so I've gotten this undersurface here done, and I've got this done, this short vertical here. I'm satisfied that's reasonably flat. So then we get down to this part here. The corner of this table is just not reliable. I feel like it rolls off to the edge. And when I put this over, like put it over on the edge, and I'm not gonna do it because I'm afraid I'll drop it, but You know, it only can stick on, what is this, an inch? So it's only gonna be on about an inch, and that's just not flat enough that I'm convinced to be able to do that. Now, could I flip the thing over on end for end? Has the other side been finished? Probably not. Another thought I had, when I redid my little lathe here, I had these surfaces, surface ground. I took it to a machine shop. They had a big surface grinder and they did that whole thing. So that should be reasonably flat. I could take it all apart, take the head off, and even these legs come off. And then I could scrape in this surface, scrape that in on the table, and then I could use that as a reference for the other part. But frankly, I don't know that I care that much. I think I was initially thinking that somehow I was gonna put this up underneath the dovetails and use this. But I think now instead, what you do is you just, because of that bevel, you get that angle and you get clearance from that surface, and then you use this machined to bring in for the dovetails. So I think that's not needed. You know, just for completeness, I kind of wish it was, but I don't know that I want it enough to take my other lathe all apart. We'll see how much my OCD bothers me about that. Okay, try to put some colors on it. Let me see if I can make it look good. I like this bright red, so let's see how that goes. As I'm filming this, it's early April 2024, and I think there were some tornadoes in different parts of Tennessee last night, so I hope no one was seriously hurt. Seems like with tornadoes there always is. And it seemed like it would make sense for me to put some masking tape or some painter's tape along here. Well, watching people paint is no one's idea of fun, so let me see if I can do this on time lapse. Okay, I've got it flipped over. Now I'm going to get the back side. This will need a second coat, of course, well, not of course, but it will need a second coat because it's not, I can see the iron through it, so I think it'll look nice and rich if we give it a second coat. Something about this nice bright red makes it look cool to me. Here it is after a second coat of paint. If you look, I don't know if it's showing up on the screen, but it's still a little bit of darkness showing through there, especially like that. Kind of would like to cover that over. We'll see if I can get that in maybe another coat or two. Here it is after my third coat of paint, and I think that's going to be my last one, although I'll probably have to come back and do some touch-ups after I put on the accent color, which is going to be black right along there, and of course along the top. But let's let this dry and we'll come back. It's a beautiful spring day here. Apple trees are all blooming, and I don't know if it'll show up down here or not. There's these nice little purple flowers. There they are in a little bit more close up. Look all over in there, it's beautiful. Just gorgeous. And here's an update. I have finished with the red, and so I'm getting ready to do the black. I taped that all off so I can come in and not get paint on the red that I've done. And then I've mostly wanted to just have some filler in this area, and then I mixed up too much, so I thought I would at least fill in. There was just a little bit of bumpiness there that might make it smoother. So now we're gonna wait for that to harden up and then sand it a little bit, and we'll see if maybe we can get a coat of black on there. There's the first coat. I do not know why, but I do not appear to have black. So I opened up this, and this is stuff that I had made from my mill, and I thought that it was like a gray, but now that I've got it on, it kind of looks gray, kind of looks green, or at least right now it's looking gray, but earlier it looked green. I think it might be the paint that I got to match this. And again, sometimes it looks gray and sometimes it has a greenish tint to it. But I think it might work. We'll see. If not, I can use this as a first coat and then come back and touch it up. But actually, now that I'm looking at it, in my mind I had the black and red. I don't know if I'm gonna like gray and red. Yeah, I think probably I'll just go buy some black. Okay, here we are after it's dried. Pretty good. I'm gonna go over and do second coat. It's a little rough right here, so I thought I might just hit it with a little bit of light sandpaper before I do the second coat. And maybe tomorrow I'll be ready to take off all that painter's tape. Okay, let's see. It's dry here. Let's see what this looks like when we get the painter's tape off. I'm guessing I'm going to need to do a lot of touch-up. Looking good so far. Something pretty satisfying about pulling it off and having a nice straight edge. Let me show you a little close-up. That looks good, doesn't it? There it is. That red is a little bit gaudy, but I think it looks all right. One of the things that I had to be careful, I had to pay attention to is, you can see here, like how paint has gotten underneath where the paint is. Now this is not a machine, I mean it's a machine surface, but I was not able to scrape that. But I especially want to make sure that I don't have something sticking out here on the edge, which is going to lift that whole side up. So I kind of went over that with a razor blade and over here and tried to make sure I didn't have anything raised up. That edge is just a little bit sharp. I may want to go along there with a file. There's a couple areas I need to touch up. Let's see, maybe on the other side now. And then I want to put some black on those letters. So I'm going to just put the final touches on this straight edge. It's kind of a nice closing action. You know, we've come a long ways. We've gotten it all machined down, got it scraped in. And as we put the letters on, it's just kind of like the icing on the cake. I think it looks real nice. There it is. Foster Featherweight. I want to show what I'm doing here with this box. I've decided I'm going to try to make a carrying or a storage, rather really more storage for the straight edge. So it had been this sealed shut. I took and got this wood. My woodworking wizard of a neighbor is kind enough to give me that wood. I think it's ash. So shout out to him. And I'm gonna put that on there like that so I can make a hinge out of it. So it'll open up like that. And then I'm gonna try to take some foam and I'm gonna put it there like that. And then I'm gonna cover it over with some cloth. And so I was thinking initially I was gonna get some sort of felt or something, but I couldn't find it at my local store. So I got this black fleece and I went back and forth, but I got different colors. I think black will probably be the best in that it won't show dirt. So we'll just go with black, and then I'm gonna kind of come in here and staple this in. It's kind of a tight fit, so I may, when I get the foam in here, I may have to sand out or cut out just a little bit, like 1/8 of an inch or something right there for where that arch goes. We'll see. It may be that once I get the cloth in there and it can slide down that it'll be all right. Anyway, I just thought I'd show that progress. I'll show it when it's done. All right, I'm done with this box. I put some hinges there on the back. Got some latches. I found a strap that I was able to screw on. I've got a cushion here to protect this surface, the surface area, that's the most important one. Got some padding in the bottom. All of that padding then pushed it this way a little bit too much, so I had to take my sander, and you can see that this is thicker than here. Had to kind of take that out a little bit so it would fit down in there. And there we are. Dennis Foster said enjoy. All right, I hope you enjoyed that project. I think it was a fun one. It took several months, which is not a very efficient use of my time, but it's fun and I have learned along the way. If you did like it, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment. And if you'll stay subscribed, you'll be ready for the next time I have a project. I tend to do these projects, go all the way through them, and then I release the videos. So often there's a long gap between segments, but if you keep subscribed, then whenever that comes out, you'll be ready to go. All right, so I'm going to also address some lessons learned, but let me change position. Okay, so what would I have done differently if I were to do this all again? I'm a hobbyist, so I have only a certain number of hours under my belt with machining. This mill, is the one that I've refurbished on another series. Looks pretty, but as I've shown, there are some laxities and some wear in it. And my ability as a beginning machinist to compensate for that is not what it should be. Having said that, when I went to machine this, imagine this is the blank for the machinist square. I essentially was trying to machine along the top here, and that was in the plane of the table going left and right. And of course that left issues of instability. It would have made a lot more sense to have it on its side where I could bolt it down and then I could machine it along this edge. Of course, I'd have to prop it up just a little bit. I could put some machining blocks. And then I could have used a long cutter and just gone this way. If I did that as the table was moving, as it went all the way out, I think it sagged down a little bit. And then on that side, sagged down. But if it was cutting in this plane, that motion wouldn't have mattered, as much. So I think that could have done a better job. I've also gotten quite a few comments about this cutter and how it really just didn't seem to be doing the job. In other words, it wasn't digging in very well. This was the carbide piece I was using. And if you notice, there's a bevel on that. And I put that bevel on with my carbide sharpener here. This is a wheel that I bought at an auction. It's designed for sharpening knives, but rather than using this stone, I just used the motor for its slow rotation, and I bought a diamond wheel and just kind of mounted it on the side. Then I 3D printed these hinges and put this plate here to make a surface and would put my carbide here to grind. It's possible that this angle is too high. I had a viewer say that it should be about a 5-degree angle. I think that may be more than 5 degrees. So it's possible that I have that angle too sharp. Another thing is, I had some people comment that maybe this was the radius was either too large or too small, and maybe it wasn't digging in. I had tried this little piece of carbide, which I bought. They're designed to be for some other purpose, and I sharpened it so that that's a narrower piece, and I thought maybe that would dig in better, but I really didn't find that it did as well as this one. So obviously the best answer would be to buy a proper biax, but those are over $1,000, and that's about what I paid for that whole mill, so I'm not ready to pull the trigger on that just yet. Regarding the surface plate, I was really concerned about the divots and the imperfections on the surface when I first started. I don't think in the end those mattered at all, because I was often moving it quite a bit, and and I never found any holes that I thought were related to those defects, and so I really don't think that mattered. And there was a flat surface, and I think it would have showed up, because I'm flipping it end for end, and if there was just one area that was a problem, I would see it. But you watch the whole process, how I went through, and you could see exactly where it was touching and not touching, and so I didn't have any questions or concerns about that surface plate. There is a local factory around here, and I know one of the guys that's there, and he said, yeah, if you bring it by, I think we could get our calibrator guy to do it. But me getting this out of here and getting it to someplace to get it calibrated is not in the cards right now. I had a hard enough time getting it in. So what's next? I initially had designed to make the straight edge so that I could come back and work on that table. And that probably is the next big step that I need to do. Right now, the thought of taking that whole thing all apart and working on it is a little more than I want to bite off right now, so I may hold off on that. I had another viewer who suggested redoing a drill press, and I have this old one. It's got a kind of a neat feature that you have a foot pedal here that runs the handle. That would be pretty easy to clean up and maybe put some paint on it. I really wish it had a crank to raise and lower the table. This thing kind of sticks a little bit and it's heavy, And so I have to do that, and then it falls down, and then I got to try to lift it up. It's a big pain in the butt. If anyone has any suggestions about how to add a crank for that, let me know. Or if you would be interested in a refurb of this. This is a prior refurb I did. I took a Craftsman bandsaw and I put some belts on there to slow it down for metal cutting. Unfortunately, I don't have any footage of that, but I thought maybe be interested in seeing it. And then there's this motor that keeps overheating. That needs to be taken apart. And I've thought about maybe replacing it with this motor, but it doesn't have any mounting brackets, so I'd have to manufacture something for that. This would be a nicer motor by far, but that is the original. So those are just some potential projects. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you around on the next one.
Peace out.